So we've been talking about this for a very long time, that the liberal left has actually lost the plot. So when you go radical over anything, then the sane voices are held by your adversaries. And in this case, with all the cancel culture, with the wokeism and the cultural appropriation and all this kind of nonsense, that we should not have expected, that the left should not be the custodian of, but they have become just that. So people who are in the middle, we've been saying this for a very long time, people who are in the center, classical liberals, people who caused the civil rights movement, the feminist revolution, the LGBTQ movement back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, maybe up until the noughties. Those people are now no longer called the left, and they are, by some of these wokistanis, they're called, you're conservative, you're a far right, basically. You're basically far right. That's what they claim. So what happens? Sure, you can shout the loudest, you can scream in my face, but the world doesn't run according to the pitch of your voice. So we've seen this rise of far right now. Literally, the far right movement is gaining momentum all around the world, especially in Europe. So I'm not going to say how the liberal left is saying, or the left wing media is portraying Italy's new prime minister. So she's come to power, and they're saying that she is the rightest most leader ever since Mussolini. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know if she's. I to be honest, I seriously doubt it. And this is again the liberal left propaganda that calling her, equating her with Mussolini. Have a listen to this video, and this woman has just come out, and look what she's saying. She is saying something that the liberal left should be saying. So if you don't say the right thing, if you don't say the sensible thing, then someone else is going to control the narrative. And this is, if she's a far right wing leader, I don't know. Well, obviously people are saying that. I'm not that well versed on the Italian politics, but look what she's saying.
Siamo a Marsciano, in Umbria, in un sito dove dovrebbe nascere un'altra moschea, per dire no alla nascita di nuove moschee, no fin quando non verranno.
So point to be noted here, she's saying no mosques until we pass the new law regulating norms for citizen safety. So what are these norms?
Trovate le norme che Fratelli d'Italia chiede a tutela della sicurezza dei cittadini. Noi chiediamo che ci sia un albo degli imam, vogliamo sapere chi predica nelle moschee, vogliamo che quelle prediche vengano fatte in italiano, perché qui siamo in Italia e si parla la lingua italiana, così tutti possono capire che cosa. La pena di morte per apostasia, e la gran parte di questi centri viene finanziato da nazioni fondamentaliste.
Qatar, Saudi Arabia, countries where the death penalty is applied for apostasy. And
il Qatar, l'Arabia Saudita, nazioni nelle quali vige la pena di morte per apostasia.
The death penalty is applied for homosexuality, stoning for adulterers, zero rights for women. Now, tell me, what far right-wing leader would be talking about these issues? What far right-wing leader would be opposing the death penalty for homosexuals, for adulterers, for apostates like us? This is something that the left-wing media should have been, or the left-wing politicians be saying, yeah? But they don't say that. Why? Because they go mum when it comes to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or Iran, or all these countries in the name of diversity. So they go quiet on that when they shouldn't. This is exactly what I meant by that. When the left doesn't uphold the liberal values, then someone else is going to talk about them. And how can we call this woman a far right-wing leader when she's speaking about the rights of women, apostates, homosexuals, adulterers, civil liberties? Well, if this is right-wing, well, I'm sorry. Well, then maybe I am a conservative by your standards then. No, I'm not a conservative. I am a liberal. But the so-called custodians of the liberal narrative are no longer liberals. They're busy with their wokeism. They're busy with their cancel culture. They're busy with silencing people like us and appeasing these people who advocate death penalty for apostates, homosexuals, and adulterers. So basically, what is she saying in a nutshell? This is exactly what she's saying. Does that make her a right-wing leader or a far right-wing extremist? She says, by the way, I don't know anything about her politics. I think I've heard that, the typical Christian far right-wing narrative, like, oh, we prefer families. Yeah, this is the Christian country. Yeah, okay, all right. Toothless narrative. I don't care about that. It's not going to harm me. They're not going to harm me. What's going to hurt me and people like me or people like Masa Amini are the people that you are too scared to talk about. People who advocate death penalty for people like me or LGBTQ or who insist on putting bin bags over women and kill adulterers. So what is she saying? She's saying we won't allow the construction of any new mosques in Italy until we know who will become the imam. Is that too bad, or is that too inappropriate to demand? Let me tell you something. Where else it happens? Actually, in the House of Islam, in Saudi Arabia, this is exactly what happens. In Saudi, every imam in Saudi Arabian mosques is actually approved by the government or by the board that is approved by the government. So if a country like Saudi Arabia does not allow free for all imams, or you can say whatever you want. By the way, the khutbah, the sermon, the daily or weekly sermon that comes out, that is yelled out in these mosques, that is actually written and approved by the government. But in all these countries, even here in Australia, I've heard these imams in Australia praying to their Allah to destroy the evil West, destroy it, encouraging people to abuse the welfare system because these people have looted money from our countries back in the 20th century under colonialism, etc. So Italy, this Italian prime minister is saying, well, hang on, maybe she didn't know about that, but I'm just saying that her demand is actually not that bad or wrong, because this is exactly what happens in Saudi Arabia. So in Italy and every other Western country, this is exactly what should happen. And also, by the way, this is what happened a couple of years ago in Austria as well. They said the same thing. They passed the same law that you can't have an imam that is not approved by, or you haven't, or you can't put an imam that without notifying us about his religious affiliation, about what kind of views he holds. Okay, what's the second point? Is there, what will they say in prayers? Oh, someone's been feeding you information, Georgia. Yes, this is what I just said. They actually literally pray, give their sermons, and they spew hatred against the evil West. That's what they say. But in their own native language, so the poor white person doesn't know what's going on. And I think there was a sting operation a few years ago in England where I think it was Daily Mail. They went in, and also in Australia, where they took in this camera and they recorded the imam saying things like, okay, we want Sharia in this country, like, oh, these Western values are not our values, etc., blah, 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 all these kind of things. So yeah, good on you, Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister. That this is not an inappropriate demand. What's the third one? From where will they get their fundings? That's not. I'll go one step further, but she might not do it because that might damage her Christian worldview as well. Take away the tax-free status. I'm assuming there's a tax-free status given to religious organizations in Italy as well, just like Britain and America and Australia, by the way. So where are you getting the funding from? Because what did they say? Follow the money. So yeah, follow the money. Who's pumping in money? And there are no free lunches. So if someone is putting in money, then obviously they want their agenda or their narrative to be peddled as well. And this is the reason why countries like Pakistan after 1979 Iranian Revolution and the Soviet invasion, we saw this millions of petrodollars pouring into Pakistani madrasas. And as a result, what happened? Pakistan, that was traditionally Barelvi and Deobandi, got nothing to do with the Arabian version of Islam, got extremely radicalized. And unfortunately, the United States of America also supported that movement because they wanted these fidains, these holy warriors, to fight against the evil atheist Soviet Union. So that's I don't see anything wrong with what she's demanding. And besides, as the video said, she's not saying that you are not allowed to build any mosques. You're allowed to build your mosques, but tell us where the money's coming from. What you're going to say in your sermons? Are you spewing hatred against our or their people? I'm just quoting her, our people.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot. It's like similar to the French model, for example.
Or the
These are
Austrian.
the laws that France has employed. I'm not sure about Austria, to be honest. I don't want to comment, but in France, definitely, it's like the khutbahs the sermons need to be approved. I really like the fact that they need to be done in the Italian language in this context, because I think that's very important, so that these khutbahs, the sermons, are not lost in translation, because in the UK, a lot of imams will take advantage of the fact that they're a local community imam, and they will speak to their fellow, if the mosque is predominantly one ethnicity, they will speak in that language, and then that's what's filling the heads of those people, but nobody else knows it beyond that. I think that even stricter conditions, like checking if these imams, as you said, follow the money, but also checking them for just criminal backgrounds, sexual offenses, these kind of things needs to be done. Like we saw Zakir Naik Charity in the UK finally got revoked from its charitable status. I think more investigations into what is being said in these mosques and who's leading the where that money, whether it be from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, wherever it's coming from, it needs to be very, very transparent. Good stuff.
But again, calling them the far right, Islamophobic nonsense, or whatever they want to call it. This is the Washington Post, and this article is from 2018. Austria shuts down 7 mosques in what it says it is just the beginning of a crackdown. So what exactly happened with Sebastian Kurz has promised a crackdown on radical Islam on Friday. He announced that his government would shut down 7 mosques and could expel dozens of foreign-funded imams from the country. Now, this is what look what they're saying. So at least one of the 7 mosques is said to be linked to Turkish nationalists, and the 6 other are run by a group called the Arab Religious Community. This is just the beginning. The move invokes a 2015 law banning religious groups from getting foreign funding. This is something the left should be doing, yeah? And the government suspects that as many as 60 imams may need to leave the country. Why? Because what they've been saying. So more than 600,000 Muslims live in Austria, which is home to almost 9 million people. Many of them are of Turkish descent. The current conservative coalition government in Austria gained support as refugees and migrants have poured into Europe in recent years. The government has since promised to restrict immigration into the country. So Turkish government spokesperson Ibrahim Kalin responded to the government's announcement on Friday on Twitter, accused Austrian leaders of ideologically charged practices. Yeah, well, you're pumping in your imams, your dollars, and you're poisoning the very social fabric of the West that you don't agree with. And then he said, are in violation of universal legal principles, social integration policies, minority rights, and the ethics of coexistence. The move was a reflection of the Islamophobic, racist, and discriminatory wave in this country. When again, calling them far right-wing, Islamophobic, blah, 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 it's just absolutely nonsense, because this is something that the left should be doing. What she just said, she said that, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, where women have no rights, apostates are killed, homosexuals are killed, and adulterers are killed. The last I looked, when these things were happening in the West, then the left spoke against it. But why does the left not extend the same courtesy to us brown people? I don't get it. So the roles of right and left are reversed.
That sums up what we're saying very well. I thought I'd put that there for you.
Well done. It's
Correct.
absolutely reversed.
Smashed it.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're definitely living in a different universe when a far right wing leader, the rightest most leader since the time of Mussolini, is actually speaking for the rights of the LGBTQ and apostates and women. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Friendly Muslim, he's come back after a very long time. Look at the swag. How would you like to say friendly?
Yeah, no, interesting topic on this Italy story. I think there were some interesting points on it. I think I'll probably cover it with you guys next week. But yeah, no, the register, I don't see a problem with that in terms of making sure that people
Sex register and criminal register, yeah?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like priests or anything else like that, safeguarding people that are visiting mosques. I've got no issue with that at all. I think
But
they
also-
did that in the UK because, yeah, that was the first point.
Oh, sorry. Did they do that in the UK as well? That you need to tell us
there
what
was
you're going to be saying.
a register, and they were making sure that the people, preaching were, not preaching hate, not radicalizing people.
That's
But
right.
is this a nationwide initiative? Was it nationwide as an
I
initiative?
think it was like at some point. I think maybe 6 years ago, it was. I mean, I'll look into it, but I'm sure
Yeah,
there
me
was
too. I'll look into
a
it.
register done, and there were safeguards in place. And I don't see there being a problem. I think there was I was speaking to an atheist. What's his name? He's for Canadians atheists basically. So he was talking about problems that they're having in churches, making sure that priests were registered and criminal histories were checked. And he asked me whether I objected to that, and I said no, because obviously we want to safeguard people.
Yeah, no, safeguarding is obviously the most important thing at play here, right? It's like even if you apply as a job as a teacher, or if you're working in certain industries around children or whoever, you've got to go through DBS checks, right? Friendly Muslim, you know that as well, living in England. You depending on the level of your interaction with the kids and how much you're working on the front line or in safeguarding or anything, your DBS checks are even more enhanced. There's further enhanced DBS checks.
Yeah,
I just found this.
That's completely.
Sorry, I found this article. It says the UK imams could be forced to preach their sermons in English to stamp out radicalization.
Great.
That was back in 2017. So obviously there hasn't been any development since then. The plans by the Counter-Extremism Task Force are being floated amid concerns that religious leaders who preach in a foreign language deepen divisions between Islam and British society. So obviously nothing's happened since then. Oh, that's a lot of bumps.
Horace.
Horace.
To help me produce more videos like these, support me on Patreon or PayPal.